What's up guys, Matt here coming at you with another quick video. This one obviously on the Ryft. I've had a lot of people asking about what happened to the Ryft, so I just wanted to talk about a couple of things I worked through, and then we'll put up some running clips, and I'll kind of talk about some of the things I've noticed and maybe changed and that sort of thing. Real quick, a couple of things I did. I put the Ryft sway bar on. The actual bar that come with it was not long enough, did not work, so don't buy that expecting it to be a straight bolt up. I have a different bar in there. It's a little softer than this, so I'm not sure it's going to work real well. Haven't tested it yet. I just wanted a little more stability without making this super stiff in the rear end, because to me the torque twist was not an issue once you put this thing where it belongs. In the loose dirt, rock and stuff, it did fine. So I wasn't really worried about eliminating the torque twist. I just wanted some more stability, so hopefully that will help. In the running clips, I'm all stock, so none of this stuff is on there, so that's bone stock in the running. I was fighting the steering the entire time I was out with it. The servo saver, the stock servo saver and servo just was horrible. Mine was. You know, I see a lot of people running these and just going on with it, but I fought it all day long. Mine would barely turn left. So the only reason I really ran it stock was to show you guys how it did in complete stock form. Now I have changed the servo. I was going to put the Ryft's Raw 500 in it. I kind of got to thinking, like, this thing doesn't need like an amazing servo. It just needs something to kind of get me on track. You know, like I couldn't even start in the right direction because the stock one was just like, it was horrible. I don't know if you've ever had a really bad servo and just like you feel like you're always fighting the steering. That was the issue. So I just wanted something in there that was strong enough that hopefully it'll hold and I can get somewhat of a straight line started, and then this thing's just going to bounce and go wherever it wants anyway. So so I decided to just go with one of the cheap Amazon specials, a little 35 kg. Had awesome luck with those in my crawlers, hoping this horn doesn't strip out with some abuse, but if it does, we'll do something else. So I swapped that out. Well, that brings up the point of the receiver box. And I had zero luck with the stock transmitter and receiver, so I'm running my DX5R now. Zero issues with it. Stock setup was horrible. Sometimes it would bind, sometimes it wouldn't. I'd have to turn the truck on and off, on and off, on and off to get it to work. You guys, if you watched the live video, you've seen it take off. It didn't do that anymore, but sometimes it would come on. I would turn the truck on and nothing. Like it would do nothing. Turn it off, turn it back on. Turn it off, turn it back on. Finally it worked. So I just got tired of messing with that and I swapped it out. So that brings up getting to the receiver, which is probably the dumbest design I've ever seen. Normally you have to take these 2 screws out. You can go to the bottom, take these 4 screws out, and then pull that box out of there and take 4 more screws out. Here, 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 and here. So I just took the hobby knife and Dremel and cut this out, and now with a little work I can pull that up. It'll actually pull out of there. It takes a little bit of work, but nowhere near as bad as all those bolts and stuff. So way easier. I don't know why they didn't do something like that to start with. It doesn't affect the battery at all. Yeah, so much easier. Another thing I did with mine is I wrapped the shocks with some shrink tubing I had, because I got tired of hearing that every time this thing would squat. You can hear the gears, but not the shocks. If y'all have seen these shocks working, you always hear that stuff a lot when you're, so wrapped them with the shrink tubing and it works. You don't have to listen to that stuff. So I have a lot of stuff on the way for this thing. I did have the rod end broke, so I just changed that out. I have some creasing on this arm here. I think you can see that crease on that rear trailing arm. So I have some low-C rock ray arms on the way. I'm gonna try to fit on there. New wheels coming. For anybody that don't know, you can't just put any 2.2 on there because like this has the 8mm nut and it won't fit inside of the hub here. I have smaller nuts that do fit inside of there, but then I can't get a tool in there. So instead of like grinding down a tool or doing something else, I just ordered a new set of wheels. Gonna go a little different direction with it now anyways, as far as color choice and stuff. So we'll get into that later, my major mods and stuff. But I'll throw up some of the running clips here and just let you see how this thing did. So I had a lot of fun with this thing out, you know, my first trip out. And you can see here, it's just something so thrilling about bouncing your way up a hill. And here I'm just kind of like trying to take it through some rough stuff just to see how it would do over some rough rocks. And it did pretty well. A couple short hills here. A lot of the hills I was going up like a little bit later, and even this one, there's really only kind of one path that you can make it. So I wasn't really launching and just living on the throttle all the way up. But it did okay. With the cogging at low speed, you have a hard time doing some of the slower, you know, speed stuff like this, but it held its own. And then like this line here, there's at the top, there's only one way you can really get up this hill. It's past a rock, you'll see in a minute. You know, you kind of work your way up here and then you've got to bounce past these rocks. And so you can't just launch this thing the entire way. But you can see it's just so cool watching this thing. You know, it looks like an actual bouncer and you're actually kind of bouncing off these rocks and stuff. I think this clip here, I think I rolled down the hill here. I just kind of wanted to show a couple of the falls this thing took. I started out kind of easy on it and then I was not so easy on it. So it took some really good hits like that on the tree and kept on rolling. So I got to give it to it. As far as mine goes, no durability issue yet besides the one rod end. And here I'm like dragging this vine with me up the hill, but overall I had a blast with it, and it's just really cool to watch this thing. Look, it just looks so cool to me, like bouncing up this rock. And that's a spot that our Capras made, you know, a few times and stuff, but struggled with a little more than this. Some of the hills that this thing can go up is just pretty amazing. Like, you don't realize that it being a little bigger like it is makes such a huge difference, but this thing can really climb some steep hills. And it's hard to show that on video, how steep some of these hills are. But, you know, I had problems walking up most of these hills. So the fact that this thing is just kind of easing up them is pretty amazing. Just like this line here, there's only really, you can go right there. So you can't just stay on the throttle, full throttle the entire way, because this thing, you know, like a real rock bouncer, it's not going to hold a line great. But once you get that line, it's so awesome just to, you know, get that feeling that you made it. So this thing is a lot of fun in that aspect, but it does like to roll over a lot. It doesn't side hill real well. Now possibly that's because I was on some very steep hills, so obviously it's going to be hard to side hill. But you can see it took some pretty good hits on the front end there even, and kept on rolling. So I really liked this little launch. It was a lot of fun. Really tough spot to get up, and that's like the only way to get up there really. And we struggled and finally made it like once or so with the Capras, and I made it over and over with this thing. So that was pretty impressive. There was a lot of spots that we had kind of been on before with the Capras and possibly made them, or really struggled and maybe got lucky once, and this thing would just like eat it up. And this hill here, it looks like nothing. on the video here, but it's very steep, and it just ate it up like it was nothing. Here you can see it's not turning left at all. It was just done. So I was having a hard time like lining it up for climbs right here, which it, you know, you can see the fall it took there. It took some hits. So, but yeah, that's really the main issue I had on this run with it is the servo. By the time I got to this point here, I was fighting it like unbelievably. It barely had any left turn at all, and it was just really hard to line up. But some of these hits, you can see it took pretty impressive that it kept on going. I'm hoping that the good luck continues as far as that goes. I want to get some more run time in with it, you know, before I really speak on the durability, because I know there are a lot of issues people have been having. Axle housings have been probably number one. And so I do have an extra set of front and rear. I ordered ring and pinion gears, trailing arms, steering knuckles, lots of stuff for it. And you can see here, like, this thing took some hits. Look at the rocks it's slinging down the hill. Pretty amazing. And then it just completely rolls right here. I never could get all the way to the top of this thing. A lot of it had to do with the steering. I was just really, really almost done by this point because it was all I could do to keep it straight. And so I think with the better servo, this hill is going to be a blast. As you can see, mine took quite a few hits though and kept on going. And I love that launch right there, just sick. That right there is why you get one of these things, in my opinion. So much fun to just successfully pull something like that off. And I really wanted to make it to the top of this hill, but it just wasn't going to happen with the servo. And I took hit after hit and no brakes. You know, other than the servo gave out. But I feel like an RTR, it's a given this servo's not going to be good. So you see right here how it veers just to the right really hard. And I think that was just a lot of, it didn't have that left turn in it. So the AVC, even when it tried to work, it couldn't turn left to kind of save the rear end from, you know, ripping out from under it. And then if you turn the AVC off, you know, I was trying to fight it myself, and I just couldn't do anything with it. So with a better servo, it's going to make a huge difference. In my opinion, the tires did really well. I was surprised. I am going to switch to a little shorter tire just to drop this thing down a little bit because I don't really want to lose a lot of travel. I like a lot of the cush that it has. You know, when you're bouncing along, I feel like the suspension is actually nice to have. You know, everybody's putting shorter shocks on it. And I tried some shorter shocks on there. I didn't run with them. So maybe I'll get some run time with shorter shocks. But when I put them on there and just kind of drove it around the house, I was not impressed because it really limited the travel. And it just didn't seem like it had the suspension that it needed, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with a little smaller tire and lower it a little bit that way and see how that works out for me. But the stock tires are really good, actually. Or, you know, seemed like they did really good to me. I had a lot of fun on the stock tires, I'll put it that way. So they were not an issue at all. All right, so you can see it did pretty well. It took a beating, you know, decent beating. I was a little easy on it first time out. So hopefully I can get a little more run time in with it this weekend. I got some stuff that just came in for it, so I'm gonna get busy swapping a few things out, and she'll have a little different look next time you guys see it. So I did all of this running on 3S, just so everybody knows. I love the 4S in it, but it's really not needed. It's so overpowered, honestly, that it's out of control sometimes. But it's nice having that power. I'll admit that. I really like it on the 4S, but it's just a little more controllable on 3S, and surely it's a lot easier on parts. So I'm probably just going to run it on 3S for most of the time, and 4S every now and then when I just want to send it. But if you guys have any questions on this thing, let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. I appreciate everybody watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell so you know when I'm posting all these videos, and I appreciate everybody. Peace.